So earlier in this live, the question was asked, what did Jesus say was the greatest of the commandments? The answer that was given by a theist was love God, love your neighbor as yourself, which technically is correct. But I always find it interesting that when this passage is brought up specifically by theists, that it seems to be very much cherry-picked. And I'll explain why. So I went ahead and I finished the rest of the passage with verse 40 that says, on these two commandments hang the whole of the law. And then I was told that I have it backwards, that I'm so lost, and then I was blocked. So we're going to go through it. In Matthew 22, Jesus is asked, Teacher, which commandment in the law, which law? The Mosaic law, is the greatest? He said to him, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment, and the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So what's happening here is Jesus is quoting the Old Testament law. He is giving you two commandments that he says are the top ones. But he adds in verse 40, on these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. He's saying that in keeping the whole of the law, this is what you're doing. You are loving God and you are loving your neighbor. In Deuteronomy 6, starting in verse 5, this is God speaking and giving the law. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Keep these words I am commanding you today in your heart. Leviticus 19, you shall not hate in your heart anyone of your kin. You shall reprove your neighbor, or you will incur guilt yourself. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against any of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. And I think that it's very important to note here that Jesus, in quoting the law, when Jesus says love your neighbor as yourself, what is he saying? He's talking about your fellow Jew, because that is what the law is referring to. This is the audience that Jesus is talking to, and this is who he's talking about. The reason why I believe that verse 40 is so cherry-picked often by theists is because they don't want to accept the whole of the law, because then they'd have to accept passages like this. Deuteronomy 21, which allows parents to stone their rebellious children. Exodus 21, 15 and 17. This shows that physical or verbal dishonor, disrespect, can lead to the death penalty if a child does this against their parents. Leviticus 25, this is slavery. It is God from his own mouth allowing his people to take and own other people as property forever. Leviticus 20, this is the death penalty for gay people. Deuteronomy 22, this is if a man grapes an unengaged virgin, he can just pay her father for her, and then she is his wife. This is God's perfect law, making it so that a woman who suffered a grape would have to marry her attacker. Does Jesus put a stamp of approval on this law? Let's read it. Matthew 5, starting in verse 17. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter, will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. So yes, Jesus gives his stamp of approval to the Mosaic law, and he is applying it even for today's time. Because, as it says, until heaven and earth pass away, until all is accomplished. Heaven and earth are still here. We are not in the millennial reign. We have not reached the new heaven and the new earth. Not all has been accomplished. There are still things that are in the Bible that people are still waiting for. So according to Jesus' own mouth, the law still stands. And yet the mental gymnastics that we see theists do to escape having to be under the Mosaic law, to escape having to follow it, but yet being able to slowly cherry pick what they want from it when they feel like it, is really, really telling.